Amnesia. My name is Peter Quinn. The car accident scrambled my brain, leaving my memories looking like the inside of a blender. My best friend, Big Dave, leaned over my hospital bed, his words a spray of sympathetic spittle. Pete, my man, look on the bright side. Your head might be busted, but your girlfriend is Claire Sterling. The Claire Sterling. The absolute queen of the business school. You can forget your own name, but you can't forget her. I clutched my bandaged head, my world a dizzying fog. Claire Sterling is really my girlfriend. Big Dave slapped his chest, causing a minor seismic event across his torso. Is the sky blue? You guys were inseparable, practically glued at the hip. You made every single guy on campus sick with envy. The last thing you said before the crash was, Claire, my love. I bought it. Honestly, it was Big Dave's earnest and profoundly simple face. You just couldn't doubt a guy who looked like that. And so, after I was discharged, I began my daily ritual of lovingly harassing my campus queen girlfriend. Claire, breakfast, your favorite. An everything bagel with extra cream cheese and a vanilla latte, extra sweet. I stood outside the women's dorm, wearing an expression that was supposed to be charmingly lovesick, but probably just read total doofus. When Claire emerged, the morning light confirmed she was every bit the campus queen. She was said to be. Her eyes, however, had the warmth of a Siberian winter. She didn't take the food. She just swept past me, leaving a faint, expensive-smelling breeze in her wake. Undeterred, I jogged to catch up. Claire, do you remember me? It's me, Peter Quinn. Your boyfriend. She didn't break stride, just tossed a single, cold phrase over her shoulder. I don't. I saved you a seat in calc. Front row, dead center. Claire, I finished your problem set for you. Claire, want to catch a movie tonight? This went on, day after day. I pursued her from spring into summer. Breakfast deliveries, seat saving, homework doing, standing on the sidelines of her tennis practice, clutching her jacket like a bona fide stalker. The entire campus started treating me as the poster child for simps, a legend in the Hall of Shame. And Claire's attitude slowly shifted from complete dismissal to occasionally stopping, fixing me with those impossibly beautiful eyes and forcing a sentence through her teeth. Peter, aren't you exhausting? Progress. She spoke to me. I was convinced our relationship was steadily heating up. The turning point came at a massive end-of-semester party. A few beers in, Big Dave slung an arm around my shoulders, his whole body shaking with laughter. His voice boomed over the music. Guys, you want to hear the funniest thing ever? When Pete got out of the hospital, I told him as a joke that Claire Sterling was his girlfriend. And he actually believed me. Ha. He really went after her. I am dying. The room went silent for a beat, then exploded into a tidal wave of laughter. No way. Seriously? Peter, you're a legend, man. He actually bought that. As if Claire Sterling would ever look at him. The smile froze on my face. My head started buzzing, worse than the day of the crash. A humiliating, gut-wrenching shame washed over me, starting from my toes and flooding up to the roots of my hair. My eyes darted instinctively to the corner where Claire was sitting. She was looking down at her phone, the screen's glow hiding her expression. Big Dave was still gloating. So, Pete, what do you think? Best prank ev. Before he could finish, Claire suddenly stood up from the corner. She didn't look at anyone, just calmly held up her phone. The screen lit up with what looked like a text thread. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise like a razor. Who told you it was a joke? She lifted her head, her gaze sweeping over Big Dave's petrified face before landing squarely on me. Peter Quinn, she said, her words crisp and clear. We slept together. Are you trying to bail on me now? The entire room was so quiet you could hear the ice melting in my drink. Me, Peter Quinn, stood there with my mouth hanging open, wide enough to fit a baseball. Holy crap. I did what now? Why don't I remember that? Did my amnesia have its own amnesia and forget the part where I somehow managed to win? The rest of the night is a blur. I vaguely remember Claire striding across the room in her heels, grabbing my arm, and dragging my shell-shocked self out of the party. After that, the news that Claire and I were actually together spread across campus faster than a viral TikTok. A few days later, a middle-aged man in a suit with the grim expression of a funeral director stopped me outside the campus gates. He said he was an assistant to Claire's father and that he hoped I would understand my position, voluntarily distance myself from Miss Sterling, and that I would be compensated for my trouble. I was still staring at his dead serious face, trying to formulate a suitably idiotic response, when Claire appeared as if summoned by a secret alarm. She moved to stand directly in front of me, shielding me completely. Her tone to the man was flat and non-negotiable. "Go back and tell my father to leave him alone." She paused, glancing back at me. Her expression was complicated, part annoyance, part resignation. "He's a little slow. You'll scare him." The assistant's face twitched. "Ms. Sterling, this comes directly from Mr. Sterling." Claire smiled. It was a cold, arrogant, and breathtakingly beautiful smile. "Oh, then give him another message from me. Whoever touches my husband," she said, her voice quiet but each word landing with the force of a hammer blow, "their company's stock is going to tank by morning." The assistant's face went completely pale. Once he had scurried away, Claire turned and looked me up and down. I ventured carefully, Claire." She glared at me, the exact same look she'd given me when she called me exhausting. Then she reached out and pinched my cheek hard. "Idiot, too. The protector. I might be the first man in history to be fiercely protected by a billionaire heiress for the simple reason that I was a little slow." Claire's "tank the stock" threat was the equivalent of dropping a bomb in the campus koi pond. The way people looked at me changed overnight. I went from being the campus joke to a piece of volatile, radioactive material. "There's the idiot" became "wow, what's his secret?" and "better stay away before my dad's 401k evaporates." Big Dave was completely terrified of me. He'd detour across the entire quad to avoid me. Once, we came face to face in the dining hall, and he got so flustered he dropped his tray of chili cheese fries all over his shoes. "Pete, my man." "Sir, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was." "She was for real," he stammered, his face a mask of misery. I took a bite of my chicken sandwich and patted his shoulder sagely. "Dave, next time you invent a backstory for someone, try to aim a little lower." Meanwhile, the woman at the center of it all, Claire Sterling, seemed completely unfazed. She went to class, studied in the library, and attended her club meetings as usual. The only difference was that she now had me in tow, an officially certified, a little slow accessory. Our relationship was unique. For instance, during our advanced calculus lecture, I stared at the flurry of integrals on the whiteboard, feeling like they were staging a hostile takeover of my brain. "Claire, I think that symbol knows my name, but I have no idea who it is," I whispered. Without looking away from her notes, her pen gliding across the paper, she said flatly, "Shut up and watch." "Okay." 5 minutes later, "Claire, I'm festy." Expressionless, she pulled a sleek metal thermos from her bag and pushed it across the table to me. I took a happy sip. It was sweet tea. A student in front of us turned around, giving us a look of profound confusion, probably wondering why the campus queen was carrying supplies to placate a golden retriever in human form. Or, in the dining hall, I held my tray, trying to subtly slide the despised broccoli florets from my plate onto hers. Her fork shot out and blocked my covert operation with a sharp clink. Her eyes were daggers. I sheepishly retracted my fork. Picky eating is bad for brain recovery. She snorted, then speared the grilled chicken from her own plate and dropped it onto mine. "Eat your food and stop talking." A collective gasp went through our section of the cafeteria. The campus queen serve a guy food from her own plate? The most epic moment came when a guy from the athletics department, some jock who clearly hadn't gotten the bankruptcy warning memo, cornered me by the basketball court after I'd just delivered a sports drink to Claire. "Hey, you're Peter Quinn, right? Stay away from Claire. You're not in her league." The guy was built like a refrigerator with biceps bigger than my calves. Before I could deploy my own brand of baffling idiot speak, a cool voice cut in from behind me. "Whether he is or not is my decision." Claire walked over, not even glancing at the jock. She took my hand, her tone utterly calm. "And that little tech startup your dad just invested in last week. Swift Tech or something. I call home and check on that stock price if I were you." The jock's face went from tan to a sickly gray. His lips trembled, but no words came out. Claire pulled me away, her head held high, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. I glanced back at the guy fumbling for his phone and leaned closer to Claire. Claire, did your family really tank his dad's company? She gave me a sideways glance, the corner of her mouth twitching into the faintest hint of a smile. I was bluffing. That company was going to dive anyway. I just read their quarterly report ahead of time. Awesome. This woman wasn't just a protector. She was a master of psychological warfare. Still, one thing had been bugging me. That night at the party, she said, we slept together, but I had zero memory of it. Did I have a special kind of amnesia that only erased the good parts? That evening, as I walked her back to her dorm, I finally worked up the nerve. So, Claire, I started scratching the back of my neck. About that night, at the party, when you said we, did you mean it? Under the lamplight, a faint blush seemed to dust her cheeks, but her gaze was steady, almost imperious. What? Are you trying to get out of it? No. I waved my hands frantically. It's just, I don't remember, and I feel like I missed out. She stared at me for a second, then the meaning behind my words hit her. Her ears turned bright red. She kicked me sharply in the shin. Peter Quinn, is that all you ever think about? She was practically hissing. I was talking about the time you had a 102-degree fever at the campus clinic. You were delirious and wouldn't let go of my hand, whining that you were cold. I had to lie down on an empty cot next to you for half an hour until you fell asleep. That's sleeping together. Got it. I blinked. Oh, so it was a literal slept together. Well, that was disappointing. No, wait, that was a relief. Seeing the look of anticlimax on my face seemed to make her even angrier. She kicked me again. Tomorrow morning, I want cronits from that place downtown. If you're 1 minute late, you're dead. With that, she spun around and stormed into her dorm. I stood there rubbing my bruised shin, watching her disappear. But inside, I felt like I was floating in that sweet tea she'd given me, warm and bubbly. So, it wasn't that kind of slept together, but it seemed like Claire Sterling, the campus queen, had actually for real been claimed by me. The amnesiac idiot. And that felt amazing. 3. The rival. I was beginning to suspect that Claire had unlocked a hidden talent for protecting me, and that she was starting to enjoy it. After the bankruptcy warning incident, my social standing on campus underwent a seismic shift. I was no longer a walking punchline. I was a walking biohazard. People were afraid that bumping into me might cause a spontaneous collapse of their family's financial portfolio. Even the student body president would give me a polite nod, though the twitch in his jaw suggested he was clenching his teeth. But there's always someone who doesn't believe the hype. A rumor started circulating. Chad Kensington, the king of the architecture department and son of a real estate mogul, had publicly declared his intention to rescue the lost princess. He was convinced that Claire had been duped by my charming but clearly brain-damaged persona. I heard this while I was neck-deep in writing an elective paper for Claire on the socioeconomic impact of modernist architecture. Don't ask me how an amnesiac was pulling this off. Claire had simply handed me 3 textbooks and informed me that failure to produce a satisfactory paper will result in a suspension of food privileges. Chad Kensington, I chewed on the end of my pen. Is that the guy whose hair looks like it's permanently shellacked to his head and who walks around like he has his own personal soundtrack? Big Dave, my source for all campus gossip, nodded vigorously. That's him. Pete. The word is he's been planning this for days. This afternoon, in front of the library, he's going to make a grand gesture. To Claire, he wants to show her what a real man looks like. I put my pen down and stroked my chin. I'll admit it bugged me. It was like seeing another dog sniffing around the steak I'd miraculously managed to drag back to my den. But mostly, I was curious. I really wanted to see how Claire would react. That afternoon, a crowd had gathered in front of the library. Chad Kensington, dressed in an expensive-looking blazer and holding a bouquet of red roses so large it could hide a small child, stood confidently in the center of a heart shape made of flower petals. I found a prime viewing spot in the crowd and even pulled a bag of chips from my backpack. Big Dave stood beside me, wringing his hands. Pete, how can you be snacking right now? Aren't you worried? Worried about what? I crunched loudly. You can't have drama without snacks. It's a rule. Just then, Claire walked out of the library. She saw the scene, and her brow furrowed in its customary way. Chad immediately stepped forward, his voice a low, practiced purr. Claire, I know you may have been misled by recent events. but I want you to give me a chance to show you what a man of substance can offer. He held out the roses. These are for you. I, Chad Kensington, am the man who truly deserves you. A few people in the crowd started to whoop and cheer. Claire didn't take the flowers. Her eyes barely registered Chad's existence before they scanned the crowd and locked directly onto me. I quickly hid my chips behind my back and gave her a sheepish grin. She rolled her eyes at me, then turned her attention back to Chad. Her tone was as casual as if she were asking for the time. Chad, isn't your family's company currently bidding on the East Side development project? The confident smile on Chad's face faltered. Yeah. Are you interested in real estate, Claire? Not really, she said, her voice still flat. I just wanted to suggest you call your father. Sterling Industries just decided they're interested in that land as well. The confidence shattered completely. Chad's voice cracked. What? Claire, what are you talking about? I'm talking about, Claire said, tilting her head with a hint of obvious pity. The fact that every minute you stand here wasting my time, your family is probably losing its bidding advantage. She paused, her gaze flicking back to me, and added loud enough for everyone to hear. And another thing, my boyfriend might be a little slow, but at least he's not a walking cliché who blocks my path to dinner. I'm hungry, and he's taking me to eat. With that, she walked straight through the petal heart, came right up to me, and knocked the bag of chips out of my hand. Then she grabbed my wrist. Let's go, idiot. I'm in the mood for those insane, spicy chicken sandwiches. I stumbled along behind her, glancing back at the utterly dumbfounded Chad Kensington, standing alone in his wilting rose-petal heart. The crowd was staring, their jaws on the floor. That little bit of annoyance I'd felt was gone, replaced by a profound sense of satisfaction. Claire, I whispered, leaning close. Is your dad company really going for that project? She didn't look at me. Of course not. The zoning on that property is a nightmare. I grinned. Brilliant. Her protective instincts had evolved from financial threats to strategic corporate deception. A few steps later, she stopped and turned to me, her eyes narrowed. You were enjoying the show, weren't you? No, I said, instantly pledging my allegiance. I was nervous. So nervous, I couldn't even finish my chips. She just snorted and tightened her grip on my wrist. Next time someone gives you trouble, just tell them my name. And then what? And then you tell me, she said, adding nonchalantly, I'll handle it. The sun filtered through the trees, dappling the side of her face. Looking at the shadow cast by her long eyelashes, I felt those warm, happy bubbles starting to fizz inside me again. Being protected by the campus queen. This amnesia thing was the best thing that had ever happened to me. Meet the parents. I thought Claire's protector skills had peaked at the library. Then I received a formal dinner invitation from the Sterling family. Staring at the gilded invitation card, which felt heavier than my textbooks and was worded with a politeness that screamed, attendance is not optional. I felt more lost than I had on the day I woke up in the hospital. Your dad wants to have dinner with me. I held the card with trembling hands. Is this an ambush? Claire was flipping through a thick economics textbook, not even looking up. Scared. I puffed out my chest, tried to reclaim a shred of my idiotic dignity. I'm better, queen. A face-down final exams. Dinner is nothing. Famous last words. The day of the dinner, I was a nervous wreck. I dug out my one decent button-down shirt and the only pair of jeans I owned without holes in them. I spent 20 minutes trying to tame my hair into something that didn't resemble a bird's nest. Big Dave helpfully suggested, Pete, maybe you should walk in and do a backflip to assert dominance. I told him where he could shove his suggestion. The car the Sterling sent was a low-key luxury sedan, driven by a chauffeur who looked like he'd been cast in a spy movie. I sat in the back, my palms sweating, feeling like a man on his way to his own execution. The Sterling estate was in a gated community west of the city. It wasn't flashy. It was the kind of place that radiated quiet, old money power. Following the butler through the perfectly manicured gardens, my legs felt like jelly. The dining room was enormous, with a long, polished table that reflected my tense, distorted face. At the head of the table sat a middle-aged man who shared Claire's sharp features, but his aura was all cold steel and authority. This was her father, Arthur Sterling, CEO of Sterling Industries. Beside him was an elegant woman, presumably Claire's mother, who looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and what seemed like pity. Claire was already there, looking effortlessly stunning in a simple cream-colored dress. She saw me, and her eyes paused for a second on my overly formal, trying too hard outfit. I thought I saw her lips twitch. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Sterling. I am Peter Queen." I try to make my voice sound deeper than a squeak. Arthur Sterling said nothing, just sized me up like he was inspecting livestock. The silence was suffocating. Mrs. Sterling broke the tension with a warm smile. "Peter, it's lovely to meet you. Please sit down. Make yourself at home." I sat down stiffly, perching on the edge of the chair. Dinner began. Servants moved silently, the only sound the soft clinking of silverware. Finally, Arthur Sterling spoke, his voice deep and devoid of emotion. "Mr. Quinn, I understand you were in an accident, that your memory has been impaired. Here we go, straight to the point." I put down my fork and decided to lean into my persona. Sometimes sincerity of the idiotic variety is the best defense. "Yes, sir," I said with a serious expression. "The doctors call it selective amnesia. I forgot all the important stuff, but the one thing I seem to remember crystal clear is that Claire is my girlfriend." Mrs. Sterling let out a small laugh, then quickly covered her mouth. Mr. Sterling's frown deepened. "Claire told me that was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I looked at Claire, who was calmly cutting her steak as if she were a spectator at a tennis match. I turned back to her father, my face a mask of dawning comprehension. "Oh, I see. You mean it was a misunderstanding when Claire announced to a room full of people that we slept together? And when she calls me her husband? And when she almost torpedoed the Kensington family's real estate deal for me?" With every point I made, Arthur Sterling's face grew darker, while his wife's eyes grew wider, darting toward her daughter in disbelief. "Sir," I concluded, my tone filled with a tragic earnestness, "I know my brain isn't firing on all cylinders, and I know my family doesn't have a line of credit that could buy a small country. But I'm a responsible man. Claire chose me, so I have to see this through. I know you think I'm a frog trying to get a princess, but sir, the princess jumped into my pond. I can't just throw her back." The speech was, in my humble opinion, a masterpiece. I almost convinced myself. Arthur Sterling stared at me, his expression unreadable. Claire finally set down her knife and fork, dabbed her lips with a napkin, and looked at her father. "Dad, it's no use trying to intimidate him. He's a straight line. He doesn't understand subtlety." She paused. "And frankly, I like that about him. It's better than the guys who say one thing and do another." Her father took a deep breath, let out slowly, and picked up his wine glass. "Eat your dinner." The rest of the meal passed in a strange, tense peace. Afterward, Mr. Sterling summoned me to his study. This was it, the final boss. The room smelled of cigars and old leather. He stood with his back to me, looking out a massive window at the city lights. "Peter," he began, "Claire is my only daughter. I know, sir, you may not be aware of our family standing. I'm not, I admit it honestly, but I know Claire's a genius. She can make stocks go up or down just by talking about them." He seemed to choke on that for a second, then turned around, his gaze as sharp as ever. "What do you think you can offer her?" I thought about it for a moment, then gave him my most serious answer. "I can make her laugh." He blinked. "What?" "Look, sir," I said, starting to count on my fingers. "Claire has everything, right? Money, you've got that covered. Status, check. She's brilliant, she's beautiful, and guys are lined up around the block for her. But when she's with me, she rolls her eyes. She kicks me. She calls me an idiot. I spread my hands. You know what that tells me? It means with me, she doesn't have to pretend. She can just be herself. What I offer is premium-grade emotional support. The one-of-a-kind, Peter Quinn brand of happy idiot value." Arthur Sterling's expression was a fascinating mix of wanting to laugh and forcing himself not to. It finally settled into a complex sigh. He waved a dismissive hand. "All right, you can go." I practically bolted out of the study. Claire was waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs. She raised an eyebrow. "Still in one piece?" "Barely," I said, patting my chest. "Your dad's not so bad once you get past, though I can end you with a single phone call vibe." She snorted and started walking toward the door. I followed her, watching her slender silhouette in the moonlight, and suddenly felt like maybe, just maybe, I'd passed the test. As we reached the car, she stopped and turned to me, her eyes shining in the dark. "Peter." "Yeah." Next time you see my father, you don't have to dress like you're going to a job interview. I looked down at my wrinkled shirt and jeans. What should I wear? She opened the car door and slid in, saying over her shoulder, "Just wear one of your stupid ripped t-shirts." I stood there, frozen, as the window rolled up, hiding the slight, almost imperceptible smile playing on her lips. Was that an approval? 5. Graduation day, I thought meeting her father was the final boss. Turns out the real endgame was lurking in the scrambled mess of my own brain. It happened on a sunny afternoon. Claire and I were on the old stone bridge on campus, hiding from Big Dave. Below us, a creek trickled by. Claire was leaning against the railing, the wind teasing a few strands of her hair. She was looking at her phone, probably orchestrating the rise and fall of nations. I was just looking at her, feeling those happy bubbles fizzing inside me when my mouth got ahead of my brain. "Claire, when we graduate, maybe we should think about." My words died in my throat. My eyes had caught something on the old oak tree next to the bridge, a faded, crudely carved heart with the letters P and C inside. That's all it took. It was like someone hit a reset button in my head. A tidal wave of fragmented images, sounds, and feelings crashed down on me. The first day of freshman year, I was standing on this very bridge when I saw her for the first time. She walked through the crowd, and everything else turned to grayscale. I was so stunned I tripped and almost fell into the creek. She was the one who grabbed my arm, then immediately let go like I was contaminated. The months I spent trying to find out everything about her, learning she was the untouchable campus queen from a world away from mine. I was too scared to even talk to her, my only outlet posting anonymous admiration on the campus confessions page. The car crash. I remembered it all. It wasn't just a random accident. I was rushing to bring her the notebook she'd left in the library. I ran a red light. Big Dave, that idiot, seeing me so lost after I woke up, he'd invented the whole story on a whim, thinking he was helping a brother out with his hopeless crush. The fever at the clinic. I remembered clinging to her hand, delirious, and her actually staying, lying on the cot next to mine until I fell asleep. Every missing piece slammed back into place. I stood there, frozen, the color draining from my face. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Claire noticed my silence and looked up, frowning. "Peter, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." My mouth was dry. My voice came out as a croak. I remember." She stilled, a flicker of something unreadable. Panic? In her eyes before her calm mask slipped back into place. "Remember what?" "Everything," I said, my heart feeling like it was being squeezed in a vice. "The accident. Before. I was never your boyfriend. Big Dave made it all up. I was just some pathetic guy with a crush who was too scared to talk to you." The words choked me. The shame was suffocating. All these months of happiness, of closeness, of this wonderful, absurd reality, it was all built on a lie. I was a thief who had stolen something precious. I couldn't look at her. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I won't bother you anymore." I turned to run, to escape the beautiful lie I'd been living. "Stop." Claire's voice behind me was sharp, laced with an anger I'd never heard before. I froze, but didn't turn around. She was in front of me in 2 quick steps, blocking my path. Her head was tilted back, her eyes blazing. "Peter Quinn, is your brain actually made of pudding?" "Huh," I mumbled, confused. "That's all you remember?" she demanded, her words tumbling out in a rush. "You remember being a coward. You remember why you crashed. You remember Dave lied to you." "Yeah." "Then how come you don't remember this?" She practically yelled, her cheeks flushed. "You lost your memory, but I didn't. I knew Dave was lying to you from the very beginning." I just stared at her, my mind short-circuiting. She took a deep breath, like she was about to jump off a cliff. "Yes. At first you were just an annoying gnat I couldn't swat away. But then what? The daily breakfasts, you butchering my calc homework even though you were failing the class, the way you'd stand on the sidelines with my jacket, smiling like an idiot. The look on your face when Dave told everyone the truth, and standing up to my father, scared out of your mind, talking about how the princess jumped into your pond." The more she spoke, the wider my eyes got. "Peter, if I didn't want to, do you really think anyone on this planet could force me to say we slept together? To let you hold my hand all over campus? To threaten people's stock portfolios for you? She stared right through me, her gaze hot and fierce. Yes, it started with a lie. But everything that happened after that was my choice. I chose you, you idiot. Do you understand me? I was stunned into silence, my brain reeling from her verbal assault. But deep inside, something broke through the shame and started growing, wild and wonderful. So, I stammered, "You're not mad? Mad at you for what?" For getting her head scrambled. She rolled her eyes, but the tips of her ears were turning pink. "If I'm mad at anyone, it's that moron Dave." An overwhelming wave of pure joy washed away every last bit of my fear. I hadn't lost her. She wasn't something I'd stolen. She had chosen me. I pulled her into my arms, holding her so tightly I thought she might break. "Claire," my voice was shaking. "I'll be so good to you. I'll bring you breakfast forever. I'll learn calculus. And if anyone ever bothers you again, I'll set Big Dave on them." She struggled for a second in my embrace, then relaxed, her voice muffled against my chest. "Idiot." On graduation day, the auditorium was buzzing. I sat in my cap and gown, my palms sweating. It wasn't because I was graduating. It was because of the woman sitting next to me. After the bridge, we didn't talk about my memory returning. We just fell back into our rhythm, but something had shifted. The way I looked at her now held the weight of something precious, lost and found again. Just as the dean finished his speech and we were all getting ready to toss our caps, Claire stood up. Under the gaze of thousands of students, faculty, and parents, she walked onto the stage and calmly borrowed the microphone from the stunned dean. The auditorium fell silent. My heart stopped. I had a feeling, a very strong feeling. The spotlight found her. She held the mic, her eyes scanning the crowd before they settled, with pinpoint accuracy, on me. "Peter Quinn." Her cool voice echoed through the hall. I was cemented to my seat as every head in the room swiveled to stare at me. "For a long time, you were the one following me around, telling everyone I was your girlfriend. Then, I was the one who accidentally slept with you and had to take responsibility." Her tone was matter-of-fact, but I could hear muffled laughter and gasps from the audience. "Now we're graduating." She paused, her gaze locked on mine. In her eyes, which were so often cool and distant, I saw my own reflection, and a look of fierce, tender determination I had never seen before. "So, Peter Quinn," she said, raising a small velvet box that seemed to have appeared from nowhere. She opened it. Inside, a simple, elegant man's wedding band gleamed under the lights. "It's my turn to tie you down for life. Will you let me?" Silence. A profound, absolute silence fell over the graduation ceremony. Then, an explosion of sound that threatened to blow the roof off the building. Whistles, cheers, and screams erupted from every corner. Big Dave was next to me, pounding my back. "Pete, say yes. Say yes, you idiot. She's proposing. Your life is complete." I was completely, utterly dumbfounded. My brain was a blank slate, and all I could do was stare at the magnificent, terrifying woman on the stage. She saw my stunned expression and seemed to lose her patience. She raised an eyebrow and spoke into the mic with that familiar, commanding tone. "What are you waiting for? Get up here." Those 4 words rebooted my entire system. I shot up from my seat and stumbled, ran, and practically flew up the aisle and onto the stage. As the roar of the crowd washed over me, I swept the woman holding the ring, the woman who was smiling, actually smiling at me, off her feet and spun her around. "Yes. 100 times yes. 1,000,000 times yes." I babbled, clinging to her. "Claire Sterling, you're my wife now. It's official. No taquesias vaxias." In my arms, Claire finally laughed, a bright, beautiful sound that outshone the sun. She slid the ring onto my finger, then leaned in and whispered in my ear, her voice full of triumph and possession. "Deal. Peter Quinn, for the rest of your life, you're mine." Below us, camera flashes went off like a firework display. In the midst of the cheering, surrounded by thousands of witnesses, under the gleam of my new ring, I lowered my head and kissed my creditor, my campus queen, my fiancée. Forget amnesia. Forget the lie that started it all. I won my wife over with pure, unadulterated dumbassery. And that takes a special kind of genius.